Thanks. I will see you guys.
Thanks, Travis.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Travis.
All right, welcome to another episode of the HL Flake Security Business Leaders Roundtable, and we're excited to be here again today, live, joining you on Facebook and YouTube, and hopefully we've got a good conversation to share with you today. My name is Chad Lingefeld. I am from Lockdock Security in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it's been a blast over the last, 4 or 5 weeks to be able to sit here and host the conversation on HL Flake's channels, talking with business leaders in our industry. So really glad to be here again today. With us today, we have Ben Turner from Tennessee. So Ben, will give you a moment to introduce yourself, and then Jacob Myers from San Antonio, Texas. So Ben, if you want to go ahead and give us a little bit of introduction as to who you are and a little introduction to kind of your role and your business.
Hey, thanks, Chad. Yep, my name is Ben Turner. I am run a company called LockMedic, and I've been at it for about 20 years now. Major thing that happened with my business in the last year is I went from a brick and mortar to just a van, and that was probably the best decision I've made the whole time that I've been in business. And the rest of it we'll get into later. I'll kick it back to you, Chad.
All right, cool. Thank you very much. So you are running a van, is that what you said?
That's right, yeah.
So,
It's been kind of a roller coaster. I have had up to 6 employees and 2 shops and 4 trucks on the road, and then back down to this. And this last year has probably been the most profitable year that I've had the entire time. So
very cool. Yeah, that'll be a fun conversation.
Yep.
Jacob, give us a little bit of introduction.
So I'm Jacob Myers with C&M Locksmith. We're based out of San Antonio. So we are a commercial and residential only. We do primarily locksmith, but we also do access control, security cameras, and we do burglar alarms too. So we're full security dealer as well. We have 3 trucks on the road, an office, no storefronts, and then 2 office staff, which are fantastic. We have a great team.
Very cool. Well, Jacob, appreciate you being here today. Ben, thank you very much for being here. We may have throughout the call, but I really appreciate you guys. Jacob has been part of our daily 4 o'clock business meeting call that we've been having for the last several weeks. When the entire COVID-19 coronavirus crisis started happening, we all kind of got together on a daily call and just tried to encourage each other and brainstorm of ways that we could all work together and improve our businesses, which is kind of where this call derived from, and this kind of weekly call has come from. So with that, I wanted to kind of get an understanding, since the COVID-19 outbreak, since the pandemic has started to spread through the country, and our lives have all changed, I had a couple of questions that I wanted to toss around. Number one, what is the thing that you're most proud of that you or your organization has accomplished over the last several weeks since this started? And then what are you most frustrated with in the last several weeks since this started? So Ben, we'll toss to you first. What are you most proud of since that your company has been able to accomplish since COVID-19?
Oh, thanks, Chad. So the thing that I'm most proud of is I really haven't noticed that much of a drop in our business. The type of work has changed. Just to give you an example, the first week after the lockdown was announced, I went from rekeying houses to going around to 24-hour gas stations that hadn't been locked in the last 30 years, and getting the front door hardware where you could actually lock it. And I put locks on supply closets at home healthcare providers, and people want to lock up their toilet paper and hand sanitizer and so on and so forth. I do a little bit of everything. I'm not just an automotive guy. I have banks that I do safe deposit box work for. I do access control. Kind of like Jacob, I do everything except alarms. But I also will go from rekeying a house full of quick sets to going down to the auction and making keys to everything, including Mercedes and Rovers and so forth. As far as the thing that's been the most frustrating to me is kind of a lack of consistency in how we're supposed to behave. I will, just to give you an example, I went to a factory that's here in town that makes underground utility enclosures a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of felt a little out of place because I showed up without my mask on. I do wear gloves and I sanitize my tools between jobs, but I show up and everybody's in masks, and nobody told me I had to wear one, but I had to come back the next day and do something else, put my mask on, and I'm the only one wearing it. So, and I mean, this is a single factory. It's not like I went from working from one client to another. It's just hard to know how to act. And so, I just try to do a quick risk assessment before I go onto any site, and just decide if I need to mask up and glove up, and just make the best decision I can. So
Just can't quite figure out what the expectation is because it keeps changing on us.
sure, yeah.
Cool. Jacob, what about you?
So something I'm actually most proud of is it's actually in addition to our team, we actually hired a new technician and a new dispatcher through like in the middle of all this. Well, the new technician actually started right on the cusp of them trying to shut everything down. But the first thing that everybody did when they shut everything down was lay everybody off or furlough or whatever. So, I'm really proud that we were able to bring people on and ensure that they have job security. And we were able to keep people busy during this time that so many people did not have a job, which was fantastic on our front, because then we can still provide for our customers when they need it most. And when they're not there, when something breaks, empty buildings sitting there is usually when everything kind of breaks the most. But something rolling into that, something you said the most frustrated with is we don't get that interaction with our customer like we used to. We don't get that face to face. I can't just go to, our big vertical is commercial property management. I can't go into my property manager's office and sit there and chit chat for a little bit and visit with all the property managers, the admins, the building engineers. And, we can't keep going with that rapport like we used to, because either they're working from home or they have their office locked down. So that's the most frustrating thing to us, because the biggest thing is we like to have that relationship with the customer, and you can't, it's really hard to develop that through email and phone calls when all they're ever doing is just calling things in. So that's the most frustrating thing for me.
Yeah, most definitely. I would say it's very similar. We actually had 3 or 4 new team members start on the Monday right after our entire state went on the stay-at-home order. So it was kind of an iffy transition there, but I've been most proud of the way that our team has pulled together and been able to just kind of support each other and encourage each other and really step up and fill those gaps. And the most frustrating thing, I think, is very similar. It says the one, not knowing exactly what the rules are, but 2, also not being able to connect in the same way that we were. We had a lot of plans this year to have a lot of in-person customer education. And we got started on that, and we had 2 of those sessions, and then it just kind of all went away. And so it was a bit frustrating to have to try to adapt in that process. But the positives that have come out of it is making us more functional for virtual meetings and virtual conferences, and being able to connect with other business leaders. So there's always positives in this, and we've been saying, let's go make lemonade. We've all been handed a big bunch of lemons, so let's go make lemonade. And I think that's been part of the main focus. Jacob, I know over the last, I guess it's been 8 weeks now. I keep losing track of the time, but over the last 8 weeks, you've been part of our business meeting online conversations every single day. What are things that you have been able to implement in your business? And so, as we're talking to other businesses out there, other folks in our industry, things that you have been able to kind of hear about from other business leaders and then implement in your business over the last couple of weeks that have been a benefit for you.
Oh my goodness. So, and you can't read most of this stuff behind me, but that's actually when we're on that call, and I hear something valuable, I'll reach up there and I write it on my marker board, because when I walk in every day, that's the first thing I look at. So I see these things and I pull from them. Every day there's a different topic, and the 3 that really, really help me are operations, leadership, and marketing. So your marketing, Jessica does a fantastic job with educating everybody. And there are a couple things like on our website and customer interaction. We've implemented a couple things just from these meetings where, we're already getting more customer interaction from online, our online presence, which has been a huge help, especially in this time, because nobody wants to pick up the phone. They just want to either text with you or email you or something like that. But then also another thing, like I said, leadership and operations, they kind of go hand in hand. It's really helped us to kind of carve out some new paths that we're gonna be trying to take with how our technicians run calls and inventory. I know that's been a hot button the past couple weeks. So there's been some really good insight on just your day-to-day operations and processes, which has been fantastic from small dealers like us all the way up to people like you guys that have I mean, how many technicians do you have, Chad?
It's a 20-ish, something around there.
20-ish, yeah. And then I think what Glenn has like 40 or something like that. I mean, it's just like, it's insane. So you get to see it on all sizes, which is really good, because it's like, okay, well, I'm here now.
Yeah.
But if I want to be here, then, that's what I need to look for, which is really good. Really good for me.
So I can see some of the stuff on your board behind you, and I see package pricing. Yeah, I see package pricing. I see inventory. I see a van cleaning schedule and an on-call schedule, which I think was the on-call schedule discussed last week.
No, that was something through us.
That is an amazing topic that we need to dive into, because I mean that's something. Really? Yeah, most definitely. So, Ben, for you, have you been able to take this time? I know you said you've transitioned from a brick and mortar over to a van. Tell us a little bit about that process. Was that during the COVID-19, or was that before this happened?
No, it was actually before it. It was a year ago, a little over a year ago. I hadn't muted myself. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, you're good.
It was a tough decision to make, but I looked at the numbers and just kind of decided that it was a break-even proposition at best, and there just wasn't really much reason to run it as a vanity project anymore. But yeah, it was last March, and it was definitely bittersweet at the time, because when I started out as an apprentice, I worked for a guy that had a brick and mortar and 3-4 trucks on the road, and that's the way he had started it. And it was in a county about 30 miles from here, and so that was sort of what I thought you did. You go out, you start a shop, you put a couple of vans on the road, and you have a place that you're anchored in the community. That if you sell restricted key systems or you sell padlocks, your customers have a place they can come and pick these things up. You don't have to make a trip out there to deliver them. And shutting that down was difficult for me, because I thought, well, what am I going to, am I going to just orphan these people, or am I going to be making free service calls to deliver a handful of keys, padlocks, and so on and so forth? And it's still a learning process. A lot of those problems have just been kind of fixed along the way. Like I have a hardware store that was my old neighbor that I use as a drop point for things that I don't really want to go out to a customer site to deliver. For whatever reason, or they don't necessarily want to pay a trip for it. But it was the thing that really prompted me to do that was I noticed more and more I wasn't getting people walking in the door, and say, I've got a 2015 Taurus, I need an extra key for it. They would say, well, I've got a 2015 Taurus, and here's this thing I bought on eBay, and can you cut and program it for me? And your margin goes down, your time on the job goes up, and your level of frustration also increases. So I just kind of decided I didn't need that drama anymore, and that was good. I mean, I still do that type of work. I'll still go out to a customer's house or business and make a spare for them, and but I do it on my terms, and I price it appropriately, and it's just a whole lot easier to manage. I only have to worry about one set of tools instead of I've got a programmer at the shop, I've got a programmer in the van. Always seemed like something was where it didn't need to be.
Most definitely. Like it also gets you back to what you were talking about, the thing that you enjoy doing the most. And I think in any business, no matter what the size is, if you're in it and you're able to do the thing that you enjoy the most, then you're definitely winning. Over the past 2 months, have you changed anything about your operations? Have you been able to refine anything? I mean, what's been different for you? I know you said that you haven't really seen a dip necessarily in maybe revenue or sales, but has anything changed that you've had to adapt?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of opportunistic. So, like you said, you get a hold throwing a bunch of lemons, you want to try to make lemonade out of them. So, I've gone after stuff like, hey, well, the factory's cold. Why don't we look at replacing some of these closers that we haven't been able to do because, you've got 2,000 people coming through the door
Sure.
at any given time. Same thing with restaurants. So I've just gone out and sort of asked for work, and it's been surprising. I mean, I don't give hard pitches. I just kind of say, listen, I can do this thing. If you want me to do it, I'm happy to do it. If not, then we'll address it later or not at all. As far as my daily operation, it's really just PPE and just trying to understand what people need me to do whenever I go on the property. I did work at a cell tower site last week and was kind of surprised to see the technician there was all masked up, even though it's just me and him, and there's nobody's been in this place for a month. But anyway, that's been about the only thing that I've really changed as far as the operation goes.
So with that, it sounds like you're actually going out and looking for more opportunities, being more proactive in that. I would say, and maybe this is a horrible blanket statement, but I would say across our industry, we're probably a majority of us are very passive when it comes to sales opportunities. Very much of, yeah, these are the things that I can do. If you want me to do them, you can do it. It's not the people that have been doing it for so long. It's not that you're out there trying to do a hard sales pitch, and that's probably something that a lot of us are going to have to adapt to over time. Is actually being more proactive in our sales approach and less passive. Jacob, what are your thoughts on that?
I completely agree, and I think it's going to really change how we sell. I'm not a salesperson at all. I've never been a salesperson. My sales tactic has always been a tactic, if you call it that, has been to educate the customer so that they can then make an educated decision on what fits within their budget, fits within their criteria. It's like if they call me and say, I want this done, and I'm like, okay, but why? Is that exactly what you're getting for what you think you need? So that's always been mine. That's what I try to convey to our technicians that are out there in front of the customers all the time as well, is you need to educate the customer. But a lot of the times, with everybody working from home, you can't educate the customer. You can't show them how this is what this is supposed to do, but it's not because it's broken, and you're just sending them an estimate and they're having to take your word for it. So I'm not quite sure how we're going to refine that quite yet. But I know that something's definitely going to have to change in order to still be able to give these customers the level of education that they're going to need in order to make that correct decision, whether it's what we think or what they think is best for them.
Ben, it looked like you had a continuation of your thought on that as well. What are your thoughts on that, being more proactive instead of passive?
So Jacob pretty much nailed it. The thing that I do is, the 80-20 rule definitely applies. You're going to get 80% of your business from 20% of your customers. It's a whole lot easier to get more work from somebody that you've already got your foot in the door than to try to go out and earn a new customer. So, the approach that I take right now is just to try to figure out what other needs I can meet with the customers I've already got that I already have an established relationship with. And, like Jacob said, I'm a horrible salesperson. The tactic that I've always used is I just try to treat the customers like I'm the one on the other side of the counter, like it was my money I was spending.
Sure.
And, sometimes to the point of actually being counterproductive. I probably refer more work than I actually take these days, but I'm in this for the long dollar. I want to be the person that someone calls because they know that I'm not going to give them a pitch. They know that whatever advice I give them is solid, and I'm not going to recommend a Von Duprin 99 if a Marks 9900 is going to be just fine. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it.
No, I think that, yeah, go ahead, Jacob.
So I will add. So I'm kind of the same way as Ben. I feel like we're having the same brainwave there. Something that has worked really well for us too during these times is basically, the 80/20 rule that you mentioned is spot on. But something that's worked well for us is those 80% of your or 20% of your customers, or even 100% of your customers that you're seeing every day, or you're used to seeing every day, but you're not, and they're constantly needing things, is you reach out to them and say, hey, just touching base, making sure everything's okay. And going forward, you start to add to the conversation of, hey, did you know that we also can take care of this? The big gripe in the locksmith community is the customer doesn't understand that we do more than lock work. And it's been that way since I've been in the industry. Everybody doesn't understand that we're not just sitting around waiting on your phone call to go unlock your car door, right? So the biggest thing that we've done, and that, this has been going back for the past few years, is when there's a need, you say, hey, we can take care of that for you. I don't know if you knew that we did that or not. And that has been a real driver for our business growth. Whether it's for, like I said, our main vertical is commercial property management. So it's like when a property manager moves and a new one comes in, we get that contact, but we still have the contact from the old property manager. So then, we get to educate a whole new customer base. Essentially, a whole new customer gets to learn about all the things that we do, including the old one, and they're going to a new property. So, it's more, it goes back to that educate the customer, but educate the customer about what you do so that they understand at the end of the day. Like, I could essentially call C&M Locksmith for everything related to that door opening right there, whether it's electronic or not,
And how are you communicating that message to the customer? You say customer education, and that can be in person, that can be online, that can be a PDF, that can be a printed off flyer. There's so many different ways that you can educate a customer by giving them information. And I think a lot of times when we talk about that, people want to go over to the digital side, social media, and that's a component of it for sure. And right now, when we're limited in the face-to-face communication, then it's, well, how do we adapt that in other ways? How are we sending out flyers, or how are we communicating this through email? Maybe if you have a email list that you can work off of, but somehow communicating what you can offer to those customers. I was looking through some of the notes from conversations that we've had over the past couple of weeks, and it's essentially turned into a conversation of, all right, some of our customers that we serve, and just kind of like what Ben was talking about earlier, your walk-in traffic changed a little bit from a retail type of location, but some of the customers that we serve may not make it through the downturn in the economy, just like some of the businesses in our industry may not make it through the downturn of the economy. So the question is, as you start to look ahead, maybe the bank of customers, maybe the categories of customers that you're currently serving may not be the same. There may be some changes in that. What are some things that you're looking at? What are some things that you're mindful of as you progress through the next couple of weeks, months, and the next year, of ways that you're looking at your current customer base and trying to either solidify that or adapt to a new type of a customer? Ben,
you want to throw
Jacob?
that too?
You can go ahead, Ben, if you want to kick that off. I was looking.
I was hoping I would get a minute or two to think about that one, but I guess I'll take it.
I was doing the same.
So I had a thought. I'll go back to the question here in just a second, but I had a thought that had crossed my mind. One of the things that I've done in the past that I really should be doing more of is, well, this is an example, an access control job for a homeowners association, put a prox card reader on a pool gate. And after the job was done, I made a little 2-minute YouTube video and uploaded it and just walked through and demonstrated how things worked. And that single little 2-minute video I've sent to 5 or 6 other HOAs that have wanted a similar type of work done. And not only has it reduced the number of questions that I've had to answer about, well, how exactly does it work, and how do we get people in and out of it, and so on and so forth, and what does it cost? But it's actually closed the deal on a lot of those requests that have come through. And it's just so much easier if you've already got the materials at the ready. Just send that out instead of having to have a 20-30 minute conversation. I'll inevitably still have the 20-minute conversation, but at least the customer will feel a little better prepared.
Yeah.
In terms of like what I'm expecting in the future, as far as the business landscape changing, nature abhors a vacuum, and if you lose a couple of restaurants, you're probably going to get a couple of new ones that move in, once everything comes back. And I really do think that things are going to come back. I mean, the economy was just too strong before. This is not the end of us. I'm like Jacob had said, when people move around, your building managers, your sales associates, they remember who did them right, and hopefully you're going to have 2 new customers instead of just one old one. So the one good thing about our line of work is we're sort of the obstetrician and the undertaker of businesses. You get folks that call you when they move into a new space, and then you unfortunately get them whenever they get evicted for non-payment of rent. So you get to meet the landlord, and you get to meet the new face that's opening the boutique on the corner that maybe they'll make it, maybe they won't. Again, I just always try to give solid recommendations that I would personally take myself, and knowing that not everybody wants a $10 cheeseburger, some of them want a $3 one. So I guess that's where I'm at. All right, Jacob, your turn.
Some of the things that we've done over the past probably 2 to 3 weeks, we still do our like Chad, I think you do team meetings. We do a weekly team meeting here, and some of the things that we're doing is really solidifying our product offerings. And I know that you're thinking, how does that relate to customers? But it goes back to exactly what Ben said. Is you have product knowledge, and you have product examples ready to go as soon as the customer has a question about it, and you say, here you go, this is exactly how it's going to work. So for imagine taking that, and if you have every single person in your company that's on the exact same mindset with your product offerings and your product lines, and not just like, I need to go research and then get back with you. It's like, yes, here's exactly what we have that will fit that need. And boom, you have the customer confidence right off the bat. So that's a big thing for us is, know the products, know the product lines, so that you can have that conversation right off the bat. And that's been real big for us.
Yeah, I know you have package pricing up on there, but products. The reason it's sparking in my mind, because I can see you full screen and I can read everything on your wall, is the fact that
see what I have up there.
the fact that if you already have those packages ready to go, if you've already predetermined these are the products and solutions that we have that we can offer, outside of those absolute custom solutions, but the packages that are already predetermined, then it makes it easier. Ben, to your point on shooting a video of the installation, I think one of the coolest moments that we've ever had, a couple of years ago, we put together a video about all the components that go on a pool gate for security. And we did it for the intent of being able to explain it, because at the end of the day, right, it's exactly what you were just talking about. You put together a quote, you send it over to somebody, and it's either a sum total or there's a list of a bunch of parts, and nobody knows exactly what it is. And so just taking a simple explanation to say, hey, this is the pool gate, and these are the components of it, and this is why they're important, and this is why we use them. And we did that. It was maybe a 2 or 3 minute video. And we had a customer, we had sent out a quote for, I think, 3 pool gates on one pool. And they were like, I don't understand the cost associated with it. The response back was, here, watch this video and let me know if you have any questions. The response back from that video was a signed quote. And it's those simple things that you go, right now, if you do have a little bit of downtime, what are the kind of things that you do regularly? Maybe it's constantly explaining how to count the number of doors in your house. Maybe it's the simple thing of the difference between a mortise lock and a rim cylinder, or whatever. Whatever those easy things are that you can explain, but that you can continually repeat over and over again. How do you record them, keep them on your phone to text them? How do you post them on YouTube? What are the things that you can do to be proactive in that? And again, back to Jacob's point, educating your customers. And I think those are great value adds that you can bring and utilize for future growth and expansion, because those that are educating are those that are going to win at the end of the day. Any other thoughts on that?
I think you know where that package pricing comes from.
Yeah, most definitely. And because of the fact that it makes it easy to take that to market, right? Like it's already predetermined, it's already ready to go, and there's not a whole lot of thinking. I think in the industry, and you guys, I would love to get your feedback on this. In our industry, a lot of times we lose out on offering a solution because it takes us so long to get all of the pricing together, to put all the proposal together, and then actually get it to the customer. And so having that ready to go, predetermined, and you can send them a price within moments is where you start to win.
Well, I'm just as guilty of this as my customers, but people go to YouTube and Facebook to find solutions now. And one of the big benefits of having a presence there is, maybe if somebody goes looking for how to install a, Schlage and code or something, and they see that you're local, they'll call you instead of going down to Home Depot and picking it up and struggling through it, called when they can't figure out how to time the tailpiece correctly. But the thing is that's where people are kind of trained to go anyway. And the more content you have there that's available, whether you're sending it out to customers or just keeping it out there sort of in the wild, hoping that people stumble across it, the better off you are. Unfortunately, a lot of it you either have to make the time to do the materials, either shoot the video or write the PDFs or write the PowerPoints. Or you just kind of make the time at the end of the job to take 5 minutes and walk through and demonstrate it all. And I kind of found it's a whole lot easier to just, after you've cleaned up, before you pack the truck up, go through and shoot a little video. Whether you use it or not, it's free.
Yeah.
You might as well have it. You can edit it together someday, but it's worth having.
No, dude, I think that is a massive golden nugget. Especially when you're there on site and you've just finished it, that's the best time, because everything's fresh and you can record it, you can capture it. A picture does something, but the video is explaining the why, and that is, I think, the hardest thing. If you start to look at proactive things that you can do as a security professional, is how do you educate your customer proactively by explaining the why. Why is that exit device important? Why is that door closer important? Why is that specific lock important? What is its purpose? Rather than just, this is what you need, just trust me, here's an explanation. Because that's why people are YouTubing things. That's why people Google things all the time, is because they want to understand it better. And so you have the opportunity to educate and explain why. Jacob, your thoughts?
I think you're spot on, because the biggest thing lately that we see is, your general consumer, they just don't know. So they're out there Googling around, and then they come to you and they're like, I found this product that I think will work. And, and they, at that point, they've come to the the determination that this is going to work for me. And that's my budget now, because I've seen that price and I've seen that product and I know what it'll do. But then you have to get there and you say either, yeah, that's great, we can provide and install that for you, or sorry, that's not going to work for your application because of whatever the reason is. So you're absolutely correct as far as it still rolls back to that educational moment. But if you already have the video to deal with it, and that's something that I've never really done. I probably should, but that is a really good little piece, is when you're right there in front of it, just video it, and then you have that information out there for the customer and to change that mindset.
Yeah, Jacob, that's probably something you should write on your board behind you if I were to. It's something to go ahead and add on there. I think that's
video.
Yeah, dude, I think that's a super awesome piece of advice, Ben, to just do it right then. Um,
And I love it whenever a customer calls me to ask in advance, what do I need for this?
sure.
As I've kind of given up on selling commodity level residential hardware just because there's no margin in it. I mean, BE 365 is $99 at Home Depot. It's $97 from HL Flake. If I mark it up to 180 and then they see it at Home Depot for 100, I look like a jerk. I've always put forward that, look, if you come to me and ask me, what should I buy? And I'll pay you to install it. I would much rather have that conversation than be on the customer's doorstep and having to have that awkward conversation where you're like, well, this really, no, you can't put that on an aluminum gate. I'm sorry, it's not happening. And I know you've already taken it out of the box and you can't return it, but it's just physically not possible. But a lot of that comes from just number one, having the relationship with the customer. And unfortunately, with the residential one shot, you don't really have that opportunity. But I don't know about you, Jacob, but I really try to go for business customers and commercial customers more than residential. And those people, you do have that opportunity. You got the opportunity every day to educate them and tell them what you can do, and just ask them. Well, listen, even if you don't buy it from me, at least ask me, what should we do in this situation? And once you get to that level with them, it's you can't buy that relationship.
I agree. When they trust you wholeheartedly to say, hey, we're trying to do this, kind of get your opinion on it, then you're in. At the end of the day, you're in. When they start to trust you that much, where they just value your opinion more than your quality of work or price point or anything like that, you're in.
Yeah, it's an opportunity where we are right now, where you really want to make sure you're adding value in other ways outside of just the dollar value, and because at the end of the day, it's going to become at the end of the day, when the economy is tight, people are going to be adjusting their prices all over the place. What is the other value you can add? And I think, Ben, you have unlocked a massive topic of, how are you educating your customers proactively, but how are you educating your customers in a positive way, not in a condescending way of, I know better, just don't ask questions. I can't believe you went online to try to figure this out. I know the best because I'm the expert. If we take that approach, then we turn people off very, very quickly. So finding ways to positively educate your customers so that they trust you as a value, as an expert and a value-added subject matter expert, I guess is the word I'm trying to come up with, versus just some guy that they don't want to deal with.
So the big thing that works for me is transparency. If people understand what you're trying to do and what you're able to do, and this one took a lot of soul searching for me because, unfortunately, in the online retail landscape that we're in right now, that's dominated by Amazon and eBay, wholesale's pretty much an illusion, except for a very small segment where there's protections in place, but for most of us, it doesn't really exist. If you have the unique situation where you're an exclusive dealer for a product, and MAP pricing is enforced, and that you can advertise that this thing costs $150 and you're not going to find it less than $150 anywhere else, that's great. But for me, I've kind of taken the approach of more like a home contractor, where I'm not really actively trying to make full MSRP on any given product, with the exception of some of the commercial stuff. But I explain it to people. It's look, listen, if you want to buy your own residential hardware, I'll put it on for you. If you want me to buy it, I'll do it. I'm going to charge you 30% handling fee. Same as the contractor bought a bunch of 2x4s for you. That's what he's going to get, plus labor. And that has been, people have responded to that pretty well. The converse of that is, if I did, just as an example, the BE 365, but bring that up because I sell a lot of them. If I do say, well, you need this lock and it's $200, and they go down and see it for $100 when they're in Home Depot, though, they may feel a little cheated. And I'd much rather just be outright and transparent and say, this is what you can buy it for, and this is how much I'll charge to install it. And, I will stand behind it. And that's worked for me. Now, there are some bad moments. I mean, like you said about making folks your enemy, that's a big one for me. I mean, you have to swallow your pride a lot in this business, and you have to go on those warranty calls, and you have to give the customer the benefit of the doubt. If you go out there with the attitude that they're an idiot and the locks quit working or the key quit working for something that they did, then that's going to be the last time you ever see them and anybody they talk to. But if you go out with, you put your pride aside and you try to figure out the problem, even on the initial diagnosis. I mean, if somebody calls and says, I can't figure out how this Fuhrer door operates, and okay, no problem, I'll come out and check it out for you. You go out with the attitude that, that they're your enemy, then that's what you're going to get back from them. And it's a goal of mine to always kind of approach it as objectively as possible.
Most definitely. I appreciate you guys' time today. I want to be mindful of our time here together. I think that if there was a massive takeaway today from the conversation is use our time right now wisely to educate our customers in a positive way. If that is preparing documentation, if that is recording videos after an install, if it is just taking an extra effort to take a few minutes after the end of your job to let them know exactly what you've done and what you can do in the future, those are massive wins for you right now. A lot of times in the service business, you're rushed. And for a lot of us right now, that's a little slower pace for you, and so you can adapt in that situation. So, Ben, I tell you, it's been a blast chatting with you. It's very good to meet you virtually. Hopefully we'll get to meet in face to face at some point in time. Jacob, always good to chat with you as well. Any closing thoughts? You're talking to people in our industry. Last closing thoughts that you would share with them in the time of crisis right now, and maybe some advice that you've picked up over the last couple of weeks that you would want to share with everybody. Ben?
So, I'm the cheerleader in my relationship with my partner, and I get accused of always being the optimist, like it's going to be okay, honey. But I mean, I really do feel like that, and we are going to get through this no matter what. Just treat people like people, and that's pretty much. It's trite, but that's what I've got. I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect, Jacob.
So my biggest thing through all of this, and it's really helped with the 4:00 meetings, has really been in the downtime to use time wisely. And what I mean by that is, 1, focus on processes, 2, focus on customers, focus on your day-to-day tasks so that you can streamline your processes and be more efficient, so that when we do come out of this and everybody starts hustling every single day of the week, at the end of it, you are prepared. You are prepared to really bust it out for the customer. You are educated. Your process, like I said, your processes are streamlined. So if you have multiple technicians on the road, they're educated. Everything's ready to rock and roll. That's my biggest thing that we're trying to really rock and roll with during the slow time, I guess you could call it, waiting on it to pick back up.
Most definitely. Jacob, thank you very much. Ben, thank you very much. H.L. Flake, we appreciate you helping to host this and get this out. I think it's a good conversation that we need to continue to have in our industry, ways that we can be better and in a constant state of improvement. Just as a couple of future topic conversations, we are looking to have conversations about better ways that we can market our business, ways that we can share that message, very similar to what Ben was talking about, and he didn't even know that we were planning that, but planning ways that we can communicate our message to our customers more effectively in the future. So that will be a topic in the coming weeks on this same time frame, 2:00 on Thursdays, 2:00 Eastern time. As always, businessmeeting.online if you're interested in connecting with other business leaders and trying to find ways to continue to grow and develop your business. Today, we're going to be talking about KPIs and metrics, key performance indicators, metrics, charts and graphs, all the numbers. It's going to be a fun topic for today. You can find out more information on that at businessmeeting.online. Thank you again for your time, and hope everybody has a great day. Take care.
Thanks, Chad.
Thanks, guys.